So about a week and a half ago, Facebook open sourced a new package manager for JavaScript called Yarn. And Yarn's supposed to be an NPM competitor. So I want to just do a quick comparison of NPM versus Yarn for fun. And before I start talking anymore, I just want to start NPM going. So I'm going to hit time NPM install and just let this run. So this project I've got, I generated with a Yeoman generator, and it's just an Angular full stack app. I started working on it's some freelance project I'm working on, but it has just about the whole kitchen sink and everything in here. It's got Angular, it's got it's Babel, it's got a whole bunch of server-side stuff. So it's an Express app, it's an Angular app. It's got a crap load of dev dependencies. I mean, it's just got everything in here. So we'll really be able to see how much time it's going to take to install this massive load of dependencies here. And so I guess Yarn, what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to be a little bit faster because of the way that they process dependencies. And what they're doing actually is building something called a lockfile that basically pre-computes dependency resolutions so that they don't have to do all kinds of calculations to figure out which dependencies they need to hit. So I think the problem is NPM is doing this every time you run npm install, and it's making it take a lot longer. I just ran this before I started recording this video, and npm install took 3 minutes on this project, and then without the lock file, Yarn took 49 seconds, and then with the lock file already generated, it only took about 20 something seconds. So right now npm's still chugging along. It's probably going to take a little bit longer here, but I'm going to leave the video rolling just so nobody can accuse me of pausing it or something and letting it, or like messing with the video. So it's still going, but again, the dependencies here, we've just got a ton of stuff. Angular, Bootstrap, Express, Mongoose, of course, for MongoDB, just lots and lots of stuff. And I'm just waiting here. So before I ran this, I RMRF'd node modules, and as soon as this is finished, I'm gonna RMRF it again, and I'm also gonna remove the lock file for Yarn, and we're gonna see how long Yarn takes. The other thing I'm gonna do after this is finished, I'm gonna run my webpack build and make sure everything builds the same between the two package managers, because I had an issue at work on a project I'm working on in React where I got a whole bunch of different dependencies, and my vendor file actually got pretty bloated from using Yarn. So I'm curious to see if it's any different here. And there's some code that is going to have to be compiled. But so Yarn's actually going to run the compile too, and we're going to see how fast it is compared to what npm's doing, because maybe npm is not parallelizing this very well either. Okay, npm's still compiling some dependencies that need to be compiled with the C compiler. I think we're almost done. Yep. So in total, this was about 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And I'm going to go ahead and RMRF that node modules, and now I'm going to RM the Yarn lock file so that we compute the lock file fresh. And the command for Yarn install is just Yarn. So it said no lock file found. It's going to go through and basically rebuild that lock file. I think it does a whole lot of like package resolution. It's kind of cool. It shows you what steps it's doing. It resolved the packages, now it's fetching them, now it's linking them in. It's got to still build everything. I think you saw at the end there with npm, it was compiling some C code. So we're doing the same thing here in Yarn now. Okay, 30 seconds, wow. So that only took 30 seconds. Now let's RMRF this, and we're gonna see what happens if I have the lock file already generated. So let's go ahead and do that. And it should skip step 1, right? It doesn't have to resolve the packages anymore. It already kind of pre-computed that, and it already resolved everything. Wow, so now it's just compiling, and again, that's probably the longest part, and they both have to do this compilation, but it definitely took npm a lot longer to compile too. Wow, 23 seconds. It's pretty good. So I got a more than 10 times speed up by using yarn install rather than npm install. This is the build I did with npm, and so I'm just gonna go ahead and run. Well, here you can see down here I listed the directory contents. My vendor file was 788 kilobytes. We're gonna go ahead and run this again, and I'm gonna do an npm run build. I have a build script that'll build this. Okay. This might take a few seconds. Again, this was built from a Yeoman builder. All right. Looks like our vendor file, it got a little bit bigger. So maybe there were a few extra things in there. So again, yarn, it seems like it resolves dependencies a little bit differently. I'm gonna go up out of this directory and go back down into it because it just got erased and rebuilt. So there's our vendor file, 788 kilobytes. Yeah, actually it was the same as last time. So I'm not sure what the discrepancy is here between these two, but actually it looks like it generated exactly the same as what npm did. So your mileage may vary on that, but yarn's definitely tons faster. And they also have a pretty cool thing where you can do yarn install flat, and it'll go through and ask you to resolve all the dependencies manually if there's conflicts. And so if I say 1, 1, 1, we'll just do this as an example. I think I might be able to exit early, I'm not sure. But it'll create resolutions in here in your packages JSON, kind of like Bower does. And it'll only pick those versions. Yeah, maybe I have to go all the way through it or it won't do the update. I'm not sure if I'll be able to do this in any reasonable amount of time. So you can see this project had just about everything you can think of for Angular and Express in it, and I've got tons and tons of duplicate packages at different versions, and Yarn is asking me manually for every resolution here. So I just resolved everything. Oh wow, that's not good. And it should have updated this with the resolutions section. Yep, right here. So this resolution section, it now explicitly says I need to get these versions of these conflicted packages, and we did that on our React project at work, and that made things way faster too, and definitely cut down our vendor file size. So anyway, that's all I have for this. I just wanted to compare npm and Yarn.